Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
So what is it that the opposition is supposed to do in a democracy, particularly in a parliamentary democracy? So opposition has to oppose. Now, does opposing means two contrary questions? One question asks that if I am in the opposition, what else am I supposed to do but to oppose the government and government's policies? Or if somebody is in the opposition, as a citizen, as a voter, what do you expect? You expect the opposition to oppose, because while you might have voted for the opposition, those fellows could not come to power. So it's their job, it's a responsibility to oppose in a democracy, especially in a parliamentary democracy. What is it that the opposition is supposed to do? So there are different ways of looking at it, usually depending on which side of the political fence do you stand on. So let's stand on the fence, because cut the clutter, more often than not, we do fence sitting in a good way, because cut the clutter is a concept to let you have the facts, to lift the layers so you can see the picture for yourselves. So we'll keep the editorial view aside, and when we give it to you by way of opinion, I will say so, I will specify it. So one view is that opposition's job is to oppose, because that is the reason they are there, that is the reason it's an institution. No matter what the numbers, in 1984 elections, opposition was reduced to almost nothing. The BJP at that point was reduced to 2 seats in the House, and yet they did pretty good job of opposing. And actually the entire Bofors campaign and the other campaigns that led to the downfall of Rajiv Gandhi and the Congress party were led by that very weak opposition. So if that weak opposition could do it, why not others? Why not say the opposition today? Because the job of the opposition is to oppose. Taking that same argument forward from the same side of the fence, if I voted for a party that did not come to power, so the same party now sits in the opposition. So I might have voted for the party thinking that this party will have certain policies which the other party that won power does not have. So this party then has to oppose. So that is the voters' expectation from the opposition. The job of the opposition is to call the government of the day to account, to debate bills with the government, to suggest improvements, and if it doesn't like those bills, vote against it. That is why parliamentarians are called lawmakers. What has happened with the Indian parliamentary system is that for quite some time it has broken down. It has broken down because there is very poor communication between the opposition and the ruling party. Usually, even when there is a disagreement on a bill, what happens is that you might think that you have the majority to pass it, but you want consensus in a democracy. So you call opposition people and you do a little give and take, and some of that give and take is done at parliamentary committees. I will talk briefly about parliamentary committees also, but only briefly in the passing. So those have also now become non-functional, because that is where some negotiation and give and take takes place. What has happened right now is that between the ruling party and the opposition parties, the relationship is almost of enmity, दुश्मन. एक दूसरे से बात नहीं करनी, एक दूसरे को काम नहीं करने देना, एक दूसरे का मजाक उड़ाना. You make fun of each other. So usually we enjoy when there is repartee, if there are exchanges in sharp wit in parliament. But right now we are only seeing that outside. Because what's happened in the country, that full-fledged politics has broken out. So that is where I will tell you the other view of the opposition from the other side of the fence, which in this case would be the BJP side of the fence. And that view would be, look, if people wanted your policies to be followed, why would they have given more votes to us? They gave many more votes to us than to you guys. So you guys raise questions, etc., etc. You have no business, because you are in a minority and you're in a vast minority compared to us right now. You have no business to hold parliament to ransom. So we move a bill, let there be debate. You like it, you vote for it. You don't like it, you vote against it. That is your power in numbers, because democracy is about the numbers. But what you're doing is you're using throat power or noise power or jumping into the well or creating ruckus to hold parliament to ransom. Not my words. Those will be the words of somebody on the BJP's or ruling party's side of the fence. And then every ruling party would use the same explanation. I've heard this from the Congress when they were in power. I have heard it from the third front, fourth front when they were in power. I've heard it earlier from the BJP, they were in power. It's just that over time, the relationship between the opposition and the ruling party has gotten worse. And in the course of time, even the principled following of parliamentary niceties, that you can do your tutu meme, gali galoj, but ultimately you combine in parliament, that is also going. So even the social graces now between opposition and the BJP leaders or the ruling party leaders, I mean right now opposition in BJP, but it was like that. It had begun happening under UPA. In a little bit it had begun happening right from, I would say, 1991 onwards, but it really increased in UPA times and later. Before that, they were always, ruling party always complained about the opposition, but this kind of hostility was not there. I remember, for example, Gyani Zail Singh. A Congress party was in power forever, it looked like, in the country. So Gyani Zail Singh used to tell us a story. In fact, he used to also use it in his election campaigns. So in his election campaigns, he would say कि भाई मैं शिमला जा रहा था तो सब लोग लेफ्ट साइड पे जा रहे थे. We all walk on the left on the road, but one man was walking on the right. तो I said, भैया आपको पता नहीं लेफ्ट में जाना है? He said, yes, I know you have to walk on the left. So I said, but why are you driving on the right? He said, because I am from the opposition. So I will drive on the right. I will do the opposite of what the law is. So that was more like a joke, right? But right now it looks like that is the attitude. And that is the attitude that both sections have internalized. Opposition and the ruling party. And what happens in national parliament then translates into state assemblies. So what is happening right now is national parliament is sitting too little. 3 sessions before this session have already been curtailed. So 2 because of COVID, 1 because in the middle of the parliament session you said we have to go into election campaign because those crucial state elections were taking place. Why was the parliament session not adjusted? We don't know, because holding of parliament is also important for the citizens of India, because that is where the citizens are heard through their MPs. What has happened now is that over the Pegasus scam, the opposition is blockading parliament. They are not allowing parliament to function. So 2 things are happening. 1, no debate is taking place on anything. Opposition is not voting, but within the ruckus, parliament gets convened for just a little while and the government keeps passing its bills. It happens with a little bit of complicity. This is a case of some mile hue, that we'll make noise, we'll not let parliament function, but you find the opportunity here and there and pass your bills. So bills are being passed. In fact, 13 bills have already been passed in this parliament session, which does not look like a session at all as yet. And in fact, there's already talk that this session may also be curtailed, which will be a tragedy. Curtailing 4 successive sessions in 1 year in India's national parliament will be a shame for whatever reason. But we seem to be heading there. Now, what's happened today? I told you in the very beginning that now full-scale politics has broken out in the country. So when full-scale politics breaks out, I mean, we live politics 24/7. Well, full-scale politics means everybody is active. Ruling party, ruling coalition, opposition parties, opposition coalition, other parties in the opposition, and also many parties which are like free radicals. So they are searching for alliances. They are searching for where they might get a bigger prize, etc. So all that movement is now started. This morning, Rahul Gandhi called a breakfast meeting to discuss Pegasus issue and to discuss the strategy in parliament. Members of 15 parties attended that. Very interesting. Both interesting who attended. So lots of them were UPA allies like DMK, NCP, for example. But there were some interesting people also. Today, you can say Shiv Sena is not a UPA ally, but it's an ally with the Congress. So Shiv Sena was present there, and many other parties were present. Equally important is those who were not present. So those who were not present, Aam Aadmi Party. One earlier meeting that Congress had organized, Aam Aadmi Party had attended. But Aam Aadmi Party was not there this time, although Aam Aadmi Party's MP Sanjay Singh said whether we are there or not there doesn't matter. All of us want a probe on Pegasus. All of us want farm bills withdrawn. So we will add our voice to all of that in Parliament. But the fact is that Aam Aadmi Party did not want to be seen right now to be in a crowd collected by Rahul Gandhi, where Rahul Gandhi obviously takes the mantle of leadership. So that, and you can see these visuals today that have come out of this meeting. All these opposition leaders, MPs are sitting and Rahul Gandhi with a microphone, standing and talking. So it does look like he's trying to take the position of the leader of the opposition. So you can understand Aam Aadmi Party's hesitation, as also that of the Akali Dal, Shiromani Akali Dal. So Shiromani Akali Dal said they were not invited. Again, I'm not surprised that they were not invited if the Congress was doing it, because just in a few months from now, it is the Aam Aadmi Party and Shiromani Akali Dal who the Congress will be fighting in Punjab. And Punjab is a rare state that Congress Party still rules. You know, besides Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, it is one sizable state that Congress rules directly. And not in a coalition as, say, Jharkhand or Maharashtra. So those two were out, but once again the Akali Dal said, but you know, on principles, we support the opposition on Pegasus, on farm bills, etc., inflation, fuel prices. And similarly, one very important exclusion or abstention was Bahujan Samaj Party. So once again, you can see that Bahujan Samaj Party is keeping its options open. One, in Punjab, it has aligned with the Akali Dal for elections. That's important. And second, UP elections are also coming up at the same time. Now, that is the crucial election for BSP. If they do very badly this time in UP again, I think BSP's decline would then become terminal, and they worry and they want to keep their options open. You can never rule out the possibility of BSP going with BJP yet again. In fact, I will not even consider it beyond the pale of possibility that both Akalis and the BSP could go to the NDA fold or go to the BJP again. Although I said today, full-fledged politics is not broken out, because we've also seen one very unusual happening, that a lot of ex-Shiromani Akali Dal people have now left and joined the BJP. So when one partner starts getting defectors from a former partner, then it tells you this break seems to be more complete than you might have imagined. But all that is happening right now, India's politics is in a ferment. So what happened around this? So first of all, the Prime Minister also spoke out today in BJP Parliamentary Party meeting. In fact, at the same time that Rahul Gandhi was having his breakfast meeting. And he said that the opposition, particularly the Congress, they were insulting Parliament. What they was doing was an affront to the Constitution and Parliament, because it's a job of political parties and MPs to be in Parliament, debate, discuss, disagree, vote, but not to hold Parliament to ransom by saying that either you do this or I will not let Parliament function. He also said that opposition parties were lowering the dignity of the House with the language they were using. And he particularly mentioned an expression, papdi chaat. Now, papdi chaat is something that Derek O'Brien of TMC used in a tweet. And he said that, look, while they are not discussing anything in Parliament, they are not listening to the opposition, but they are passing laws in a rush as if somebody was making papdi chaat. That's what he tweeted. And he then listed 13 bills in both houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, which he said had been passed in such a hurry that they had averaged less than 7 minutes per bill, which he compared to making papdi chaat. Frankly, any papdi chaat wala I have known in my life can maybe feed if not half a barat, at least quite a large part of a barat in 7 minutes. So any papri chaat wala who takes 7 minutes to toss up one plate of papri chaat is getting out of business very soon. Nevertheless, he used that simile, and the PM took umbrage at that. Then the PM said the opposition is indulging in nautanki. So coming out of parliament, Mallikarjun Kharge of the Congress party was asked this question, that the PM said you are doing nautanki, and he said journalists are spied upon, army chief is spied upon, all kinds of officials, key officials are spied upon, his quotes, not mine. All these are spied upon, and we demand an inquiry. Do you call it nautanki? This is not nautanki. So that is why I told you that a lot of colorful language is flying, but it's not flying in parliament. You could have the same language exchanged in parliament, but all of this is happening outside parliament. Now what's happening is that the government meanwhile is carrying on passing its bills. So Derek O'Brien is right to say that the government is passing bills just like that, if not like making papri chaat, maybe doing something, even maybe lighting a match. But they're just passing these bills like formalities. Now, I will list some of these bills for you, and they are important bills. For example, factoring regulations bill. Now, that's an amendment that then allows MSMEs, that is micro, small and medium industries, to access loans. These are loans below 1 crore, so they can access loans from NBFCs, etc. Now, MSMEs are our most stressed factor, particularly because of COVID. So it's an important bill on which MP should have had a say. There should have been some discussion. This was passed in all of 13 minutes. Then there is National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill, passed in 6 minutes. Then Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill passed in 5 minutes. That amendment also affects, it's to the benefit of MSMEs. Supplementary Grant Bill, budgets, when you are short of money, government seeks supplementary grants. That is where MPs are supposed to have a say. Ye paisa dena hai ki nahi dena hai, kahan jayega? 9 minutes. Appropriation bills, 2 appropriation bills passed, 3rd and 4th, in 3 minutes each. Inland Vessels Bill, 6 minutes. Airport Economic Regulatory Authority, AERA Bill, 14 minutes. Then in Rajya Sabha, Marine Aids and Navigation Bill, 8 minutes. Juvenile Justice Bill, very important for children, victims of crime, 5 minutes. No discussion. Again, Rajya Sabha passed the factoring bill in 7 minutes. Coconut Development Board Bill. I'm sure at least MPs from Kerala would have had something to say there, and the BJP does not have any there. That is passed in all of 1 minute. Now, this tells you that bills are being passed in a hurry. So whatever happens, the voters in India, the citizen is being shortchanged. Now, there are 2 ways of looking at this. Government says, what can we do? The opposition decides not to sit in the house. They force adjournments on the house. Does it mean we will not pass any bills and the whole session will be written off? So we will pass the bills. आपको नहीं पसंद है तो आके आप बोलिए, आप oppose कीजिए. But you can't be sitting outside and you can't come in and make halla and then walk out and then say, I will not let anything happen. So we will pass our bills anyway. The convention, on the other hand, is usually that when the opposition has a big complaint like that, which is causing adjournments, then the government, the ruling party, the treasury benches reach out to the opposition. And there is some negotiation and give and take. But this outreach cannot be meeting somebody at a dinner or at a party. That is what the opposition is now complaining about, that we are not getting a direct approach from anybody senior, anybody of consequence in the BJP. Obviously, they will say there are only 2 people of consequence, that is Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. But they say some junior minister telling us, "Arey bhai, aa jao na, chai peene ke liye sab faisla kar lenge." That is not going to work. So opposition wants attention. Usually in parliamentary system, that attention might have been given, because this breakdown in a parliament purely based on who has the majority and who doesn't is not the spirit of parliamentary functioning. Parliament has to function as if it represents the entire country, not just the ruling party. Because, you know, in India, we have the first past the post system. So in the history of India, nobody has got more than 50% of the vote. Even Rajiv Gandhi, 1984, he got 413 seats. He also got below 50% of the vote. I think, if I remember correctly, about 46% or thereabouts. So nobody gets more than 50% of the vote. That is where this new interesting comment has come in. Because just as Narendra Modi, Prime Minister, has said that opposition by forcing adjournments, by sitting out, is causing an affront to Parliament, Rahul Gandhi has said that you are causing an affront by not listening to us. You are causing an affront to 60% voters of India, or 60% people of India. What is the logic? That you might have the majority, but you still got just over 40% of the vote. In fact, if you got a little bit more than 40% of the vote, some of your partners who brought some of that vote have already gone away, Shiv Sena, Akali Dal, etc. So you are left with about 40% of the vote, which is mostly the BJP's vote. So remaining 60% did not vote for you. All the parties which have now gathered together jointly to oppose you and to demand a probe on Pegasus and discussion, plus all the other demands, they represent the will of 60% of the Indian voters. They may not account for a majority in the House. So once again, you might have the majority in the House, but it does not mean that a majority of Indian voters voted for you. And even if 55% Indians had voted for you, the will of the remaining 45% would still have mattered. Now, these are issues which have been discussed in the past. Today has an article in the Indian Express which I will share with you. And he talks about some of these conventions. So 2001, when Vajpayee was in power, Vajpayee government was in power, and Yashwant Sinha was a member of that cabinet. Remember, 2001 was an important year. It was the 50th year golden jubilee of the adoption of our constitution. So that is when a special session of parliament was held. MPs gave long, flowery speeches saying, all of them admitting with mea culpa, saying parliament had broken down, the functioning had broken down, and now India had to fix all this. So they even said that India should have at least 110 days of parliament functioning in a year. Indian parliament was meeting too little. And even in the large states, the assemblies should have at least 90 days. Nobody has revisited this idea since then. In fact, just as parliaments are not functional, state assemblies are even less functional. So even assemblies where state governments have comfortable majorities only call sessions for 2 days, 3 days, quick, pass something and get done with it. So parliamentary democracy is broken down, except the fact that we have elections. But through those elections, the parliament that is supposed to then discuss, debate, reach the voters' voice to the government of the day, that has broken down. Now, the same special session had also talked about disciplining members, so many adjournments would not take place. It had also looked at some of the other countries, and Yashwant Sinha also mentions that. For example, opposition says that we force adjournments or we make halla because otherwise we are not given an opportunity. Otherwise, the majority just drowns out our voices. So what choice do we have? We have to make ourselves heard, so hum shor karte hain because we don't have the numbers. So he quotes the example of other parliamentary democracies which have found a solution around it. So the British Parliament, for example, 20%, that is 20 days, British Parliament sits for 100 days in a year. Of that, 20 days are assigned as opposition's days. Those are the days on which the opposition sets the agenda. Of this, 17 are given to the main opposition party, which is Liberal. 3 are given to the second largest party, right? So those days, they set the agenda, but remember, anything passed or decided on those days is not binding on the government to implement. That is basically to put forward the opposition's point of view. Is such a thing possible in India? It's been discussed before, but somebody has to bell the cat, and whoever bells the cat will have to be a very brave person, also a very large-hearted person. And large-heartedness is not something which is now found in Indian politics. And it's because of this that lots of other parliamentary institutions are breaking down. We saw last week the Information Technology Committee of Parliament, Standing Committee under Shashi Tharoor. That was to discuss Pegasus. What happened? BJP people either didn't come or came, didn't mark their attendance. Basically, they had instructions to not let this committee function. So the committee did not function. Now, the beauty of these committees in India is that in these committees, members come in as non-partisan, because you know what? There is a lot of demand that the hearings of these committees should be made open. And it's an illiberal view, but I have maintained, and I'm not the only one who says that in fact, it is good that the hearings of these committees are confidential and they are not made public. Because if they were made public, then every MP will have to grandstand depending on the position of his or her party, or will be bound by whips. But in these committees, whips don't work. So MPs then discuss these bills and take a non-partisan position. But this non-partisanship has been going away for quite some time. Now, this committee was scuttled, but before that, many other committees were scuttled. JPC was set up, Joint Parliamentary Committee was set up on 2G scam. Congress scuttled it because Congress was under instructions not to let it happen, so much so that Yashwant Sinha mentions in his article that a gentleman like Saifuddin Soz from Kashmir even stood up, climbed on the table in the committee meeting to not let this happen. So that did not happen. And that happened similarly, similar nonsense happened with JPC on BOFOR. So frankly, even now, when the opposition says there should be a JPC on Pegasus, you know what's going to happen at JPC. So parliamentary committee system is also now breaking down. Now, having said that, I will just briefly tell you something about parliamentary committees in 2 minutes. So there are two kinds of parliamentary committees: standing committees and their ad hoc committees. So standing committees are committees which are linked to ministries, which are permanent. Ad hoc committees are set up to look into some issue like a JPC. Now there are 24 fixed committees in our parliament. These 24 are called departmentally related standing committees, DRSC. So every ministry has a departmentally related standing committee. And then there are joint committees. Joint committees are the ones that have members both from Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Usually when you have a joint committee, then the ratio would be 2 Lok Sabha MPs, 1 Rajya Sabha MPs. And this system works quite well. In each DRSC, departmentally related standing committee, there are 31 members, 21 from Lok Sabha, 10 from Rajya Sabha. But once these MPs come to the committee, more often than not, they do not function as party people. They function as lawmakers. And this is a very healthy institution, but right now partisanship is fully gone in there as well. This virus has spread, and the fact is that our parliamentary political system, democratic system at this point is broken down. Just because we have elections, it does not mean that our democratic system is functioning. Because remember, an election only tells you who has the majority. But majority does not mean that the rest of the country, the opinion of the rest who did not vote for the government of the day, does not matter. So opposition has the right to do opposition, and that place has to be given. That is now my editorial view. And to say that, oh, what is the opposition doing? They are guilty of oppositionism. That is not correct to say, because if you did not have the opposition, then you might have a political system like China's. You want to live there? Please go ahead. I'm not going to live in China.